What's up, guys? JP back at you once again, bringing you guys day number 7 in my 13th annual 31 Days of Horror series, in which we watch and review 31 horror films in 31 days, all during the month of October, leading right up to Halloween. And for today, I decided to go with a 2024 release, and that is Salem's Lot from the year 2024. So this is the fourth Salem's Lot film. So you have the original Tobe Hooper, 1979, I believe. And then there's a Return to Salem's Lot, which is a weird, goofy sequel. And then they did a mini-series remake in like 2004, which I have actually never seen. And then now this new adaptation, if you will, based on a Stephen King novel of the same name. And yeah, it's an interesting troubled history, this one. So I believe it was announced in 2019. It was shot in 2020, I believe. And it it was shot in 2020, 2021. Then they did some reshoots in 2022, and then it was supposed to come out last year. It didn't come out. Finally, it came out this year. It also was supposed to be theatrical, and it dropped on HBO Max as its I guess, direct-to-streaming debut. Excuse me, a little tired. Cinema Wasteland took a lot out of me. But yeah, so this film follows Ben, who is returning to a town he grew up in called Jerusalem's Lot, also known as Salem's Lot. And there are quite a bit of characters that he interacts with. There's a girl that he likes. There is a school teacher that he becomes friends with. There is a alcoholic priest in the town. There is a couple of kids that we follow as well, including a new kid to the town, a couple of brothers, and then of course the doctor, as well as the bad guys, Barlow and Stacker or something, I think their names are. So basically, he moves back to his hometown where his parents were killed when he was a kid, to sort of get inspiration for a new book that he's struggling to write. There he becomes involved in the town. One of the children go missing, and the town starts getting very paranoid about him. And also, we know as the audience that the new people that moved into town before him is a vampire and his servant. So he's sort of preying on the town a little bit. And it's up to him and the group of people that he becomes friends with to step up and stop the vampire. So I had heard a good bit of bad stuff about this movie, and it's also set in 1970s, which is pretty cool. There's a good scene with the drive-in and stuff like that. But I heard some bad stuff about it, so I went in with pretty low expectations. And I actually enjoyed it for the most part, but I do have some issues. So, first of all, I really like the characters, and I actually really enjoyed them interacting with each other, and sort of developing as like this town that feels kind of lived in. You're introduced to all these characters, you spend a little bit of time with everybody. So I actually really like the characters. I like Ben, I liked his love interest, I like the doctor, I like the teacher, I like the little kid who's into like horror movies and stuff. He had a Sugar Hill poster in his room, and a Trog poster in his room. Some Universal Monsters stuff, pretty cool. But and I think that the interactions and the like sort of developments of the characters is like one of my favorite aspects of the film. There are some creepy moments in the movie. They do some good stuff with like glowing eyes and stuff like that. But for me, like where the film actually doesn't work is it feels too short. It maybe should have been a miniseries because there is a lot of characters, and everything feels like it happens very fast. You feel like there's stuff missing. Like it literally feels like there's parts, and it could be because I've seen the original, but it just feels like they didn't have enough time, and the film's almost 2 hours, so it's a longer movie. Usually I'm against super long running times, but I feel like if you're taking on a project this vast and you have this many characters and things like that, I feel like you kind of need to have a longer runtime. The pacing felt very off. Like we spend a good chunk of the movie like getting to know people, and then it's just like the third act just comes out of nowhere, it feels like. And I think like the first half of the third act is a bit weak. The second half, like the final, I thought was pretty cool. Set at the drive-in, I thought that was a pretty cool idea. One thing that also really bugs me about this movie is the look of... First of all, we don't even get the lead vampire that much. But when we do, it's that like old school Nosferatu look, which I like. We most recently saw it in The Last Voyage of Demeter, or whatever that movie's called. And I like the look of that type of vampire, but like what's frustrating about this movie is like I always wonder, like, do people create the design of this and use the CG and like, do they think like, oh, this looks better than the original? Or do they know that it doesn't look better than the original? Because that would really bug me if I was a filmmaker. I'd be like, how is this stuff that was made like 40 years ago look better than this stuff with modern technology? Like, it just never sits right with me. So whenever you reduce like direct scenes, or you sort of directly recreate a monster, it has to look as good, if not better, as the original, or else you're wasting your time. It's just stupid. Same thing bothered me with the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, where they redo the scene in the bedroom with Freddy coming out of the wall, and it looks like horrible. It's like, why even bother? Like, look at the original, look at that, and be like, did we really do as good as we could have? Like, no. Like, do they just think the audience isn't going to notice? Do they think it's not that big a deal? Because it's a pretty big deal to me. Yeah, so I felt like the pacing was off. I mean, I was really into the first like hour of this movie, and I was like, man, this is pretty good. And then the second half kind of like stepped down. It just felt like the pieces were just moving way too fast, and it just like felt like they were trying to stuff so much into 40 or so minutes left. And sorry, I'm really tired. It's not that it's one of those things where it's like, I don't even know where I was going with that. Sorry. What, like, you can't have a film that takes on this many characters that feels rushed. It just doesn't work that well. So yeah, I don't know. It was like the pacing was off. There's some cool editing in here that I noticed too. And then there's also some like editing where that they are like trying to speed the film up a little bit. Cutting out like where it feels like sometimes it feels like there should be a scene in between two scenes. You know what I mean? It's like we skip parts of what you would normally see in a movie. So yeah, at the end of the day, I think that it's a flawed adaptation, but I don't think it's as bad as people think. And I enjoyed, that I thought the acting was really strong. Like I said, I like the characters. I almost wish we got a little bit more time with a lot of them. Some of them were kind of a little bit generic, like the priest. Typical like alcoholic priest. It was like, basic, you know. But also, it also feels like they set up narratives, like the whole narrative with like him writing the book and his parents and stuff like that. I guess they just give you a little bit of backstory on it, but it feels like it was it felt like it was supposed to be developed into something bigger, and it wasn't. But yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 7 out of 10. I don't think it's that bad at all. Like it's definitely watchable. I was entertained, you know, but definitely nowhere near as good as the original, for sure. But yeah, so 7 out of 10. See you guys next time with another review. Peace.